today. We'll first start with some best practices in regards to the actual design of your mission. Now, when designing your mission, there are really 3 steps that you can take to really ensure the overall success of your mission. The first step that we're going to talk about today is clearly identifying your learning objectives. When we think of our learning objectives, we really want to think of them really as the foundation on which our mLevel mission is built. With anything, if you have a weak foundation, your overall structure is going to be compromised. And the same thing goes with your mLevel mission. Now, a clearly defined learning objective is really going to, 1, allow you to effectively build content for your end user. 2, it's going to allow you to choose games and activities based on those learning objectives. And last but not least, it is going to allow you to order those activities in a logical fashion. Now, when crafting your learning objectives, you're going to want to make sure that they consist of 3 key components. First, you're going to want to have the performance component. And this performance component is really going to describe what the participants will be able to do as a consequence of taking a given course or given mission. The next component that you're going to want to have is the condition component. And this component will describe the conditions under which your learner will perform a given behavior. The last and final component that you're going to want to include is the criteria component. And this will simply just describe the criteria you will use to evaluate your learners on their overall performance. So let's take all of those components now and we can combine those into an example. Jeff, do you mind going back just one slide real quick? Thank you. So an example of a well-written objective could be, given a product and a prospective customer, the learner will be able to describe key features of the product and close the sale. From this learning objective, we can already kind of start to shape the content that we will need for the user to successfully complete this learning objective. So based off that objective, we would probably want to have a content grid that focuses on key features of a given product, the sales cycle, how to handle objectives, as well as when to close. Now, once you have those learning objectives finalized, you can then begin crafting your content grids to meet those learning needs. Once you have that content finalized and you're ready to upload your content grids, you will then want to shift your focus to choosing the right activities to meeting your learning objectives. When it comes to this important step, you will want to utilize all 3 types of activities offered by the mLevel platform. Jeff, do you mind rolling forward? The first type of activity that we're going to want to use is the exposure activity. And an exposure activity is essentially just going to expose the end user to the content that they are going to be encountering throughout the mission. We then have an assess activity, and that assess activity takes content from those exposure activities and assesses the end user's knowledge on that. Last but not least, we have our apply activities. And those apply activities forces the user to apply all previous knowledge gained in the mission into a final activity. Can you roll forward, Jeff? So here we can see some examples of some exposed activities. Here we have Knowledge Navigator, which is exposing the end user to all the content that they will be learning about. We have our video activity. Here we could host a video where a user could go in, listen to the content, watch the video, and then they could go ahead and then answer some questions about that video. Last but not least here, we have our external link activity. Here we can link out to other documents that can help reinforce the learning that is going on within your mission. The next type of activity here, we have our assess activities. And as you can see here, we have some examples of those, such as Fastlane, Block Party, Quiz Ball, Checkpoint, Icebreaker, Short Fuse, and so on. So kind of the idea here will be to have the user be exposed to that knowledge, either in your Knowledge Navigator, your video, or external link, and then they could go ahead and then be tested on that knowledge in one of our assess activities here. Last but not least, we have our apply activity. And like I stated before, this apply activity is going to force the end user to apply all of the knowledge gained in previous activities into kind of one last hurrah. Here we can see some examples of those apply activities, such as Pathfinder, which is our scenario-based activity, the coordinates activity, as well as the custom task activity. Now, once you have chosen the correct activities for your given learning objectives, you'll then want to continue on and really start to make mLevel your own. When transforming the mLevel platform into your own, it's really important to focus on the three facets of customization that the mLevel application provides. We have app branding, level configurations, as well as dynamic text. When customizing your environment via the branding applications, such as the mission level branding, the tenant level branding, and the activity level branding, you're really going to want to utilize your company's brand guidelines. You also may want to be sure to go ahead and grab some company imagery from your brand center. These brand centers really contain a treasure trove of high-quality imagery that can be really used to take your mission to the next level. Our next step in customization will actually be customizing your individual activities. In the mLevel platform, as many of you know, you have the ability to get a little bit more granular and go in and actually customize the levels in some of the mLevel activities. From personal experience, oftentimes I see users only using locations for many of their activities. Now this is definitely fine, but there's definitely ways you can get more creative in terms of your level customizations. For example, in Checkpoint, you could set a level to represent a particular part of the office. You could also set it up to really kind of dictate your company's history. Let's say for level 1 in Checkpoint, it could be your founding date. Level 2 could be when your company merged with another company. And your final activity or final level can really just be the present day. Last but not least here, we have our text. And in the mLevel platform, we grant the administrator the ability to really go in and customize all of the text that the end user is seeing. From what I've noticed, this is one of the most overlooked features of the platform. And while it's not as flashy as, say, the level customizations as well as the app branding, this is still a crucial step in building your mLevel mission. Simply by tweaking the mLevel mission overview text, the activity summary, or the game intro text, you can successfully get your messages across to the end user and inform them about what they will be experiencing in a given mission or activity. For example, let's say the questions in your Fastlane activity all revolve around product features. In the activity summary, you can outline that to the end user by saying, in this activity, you will drive to various cities answering various questions about XYZ product features. Once complete, continue on to the next activity to learn more about the sales cycle. This is just really a simple summary and is really taking your end user experience to the next level. You'll be informing them about what they'll be experiencing in the activity, so they'll know ahead of time if they have to brush up on the information that is found within that activity.
Hi everybody, I'm Jake and I'm the support lead at mLevel, and I'm going to be announcing the polls. And so to start, we'll have our first couple polls here to start, and we appreciate your feedback. The first poll here is, how often do you feel the business owner clearly outlines the curriculum's learning objectives? Go ahead and close this one now. And it looks like a lot of people answered sometimes, which is great. And Jeff, I think we've got one more poll to share right now. Our next poll is, which do you feel adds the most value to the end user's experience? Yeah, it looks like a lot of people, kind of a mixture of results here. A lot of adding level configurations to games and customizing app text. I think we're going to jump to Kelly now.
Yeah, so now we'll introduce Kelly Martin, who will continue our conversation on best practices, and then we'll jump back to Chris Weaver later on, and he's going to teach us about analytics a little bit as well.
Thanks, Jeff, and good morning, everybody. So again, I'll share some best practices on both user management and also driving engagement. So first, let's start with user management. So whether you are hoping to introduce single sign-on for your players or even just improve the process of gathering and sharing player information with mLevel, a first great step is to set up a quick 30-minute phone call with the appropriate parties. So I've seen a lot of enhancements get slowed down through the back and forth of email conversations. The emails, they just don't fully state the goal or expectations, and of course they don't support questions being answered in a timely manner. So if possible, setting up a call with the mLevel IT team and your IT team is a fantastic way to begin discussing the goal and outlining the steps to get there. Even if we aren't able to come to a conclusion on that first call, getting everybody on the same page works wonders in making progress. So I know this sounds like a very simple best practice, but I promise really taking that extra step to align schedules, have a phone call can make a substantial impact in enhancing your user management. I've worked with clients in the past, and after a few email threads that weren't getting anywhere, once we finally set up that phone call, they were shocked with how easily we were able to move forward. Sorry, I'm not sure if it's a delay on my side. Perfect. Thank you. So the most common reasons you may want to get your IT team involved is to facilitate a master file being sent to mLevel on a regular basis, or maybe you're configuring single sign-on or SAML user authentication. So let me talk you through the master file first. Ideally, your IT team, possibly HR, can send a data dump outlining the information for the individuals of your company. A key element on this master file is beginning to use a unique identifier to describe each individual player. So most commonly, that's an employee number or an employee ID. So this is a piece of data that doesn't change throughout their time at the company. This way, if their name, email, role changes, the analytics tied to their identity is maintained. Other benefits of receiving a master file regularly is that the player audience is automatically updated with new people. So as you hire new hires, they'll start showing up on that file. And players' access is removed if they leave the company. So you don't have to manage those two elements. Also, our database is updated if their information changes, so their name or their email. If you go ahead and load a large file to start, also, as you develop and roll out missions, you no longer have to track down the information for just your player audience. Now it's much easier to launch missions in different departments or maybe reach a broader audience because they're already going to be in our system. This also ensures that player files moving forward are formatted correctly. So the next section, setting up SAML, can also make a big impact for your users. SAML authentication means that a player can now log in with their corporate email and password. Some benefits of this include that they no longer need to remember or manage an mLevel specific password. This will also remove an additional registration step for launching missions. And Jake has written a wonderful support article on the benefits of using SAML, and there's actually this really great graphic that outlines how it works. So we're going to include a link to that article as a follow-up. So that's my best practices for user management. I think we're going to move into the poll questions.
All right, our next poll is, see if I can get my buttons straight here. In terms of user authentication, which challenge has been the largest to overcome for you guys? Looks like this one was kind of split right down the middle, a little bit higher results in determining who to contact for a master file. So please do feel free to get in touch with us for some help on that. We're always happy to help with user management. We're going to show one more poll, I believe. Next question is, what can mLevel do to help? Additional support documentation, facilitate technical conversations, or share requirements outlining what is needed?
You can select one or more.
All right, thanks everybody for voting. Kind of split down the middle again here. And I believe we're back to Kelly.
Yep. Great. So now I'm going to share some best practices for driving engagement. So ideas that support the launch of your mission and motivates players to log in, play frequently, and master the takeaways of your content. So first, executive sponsorship. Get leadership involved in talking about mLevel. A great way to do this is maybe host a demo for the leaders or record a quick clip of your mission and share that via email. And just ask them to get involved. Localizing the mission, maybe at a next town hall or mentioning it to their team at their weekly touch base are both great ways to raise awareness. They'll appreciate your initiative, and the players will absolutely be more engaged knowing that leadership is behind it. So second, think outside email. I'm sure you've all worked with your account manager to draft player communications. Email is definitely the most common way we see missions being launched because it's a great way to communicate login instructions. So I do want to challenge you all to think outside email or at least support your mission further by utilizing SMS blasts, posters, handouts, lunch and learns. I think email is a great way to get the login information shared, but there's other ideas that can support your email that'll help drive awareness even more. That being said, I do have some tips for those player communications that are sent out by email. So first, customize your communication. Make sure to state the goal of the mission and how it benefits the player clearly. Also, use imagery to spark their interest and keep it fun. So mLevel is redesigning your learning, so make sure you don't use the same old way of communicating with your players. Be creative and catch their interest. And then for those player communications, also using an influential sender ensures the players open and read the communication. So possibly those leaders that we've demoed to earlier can help you out. But ensuring that email gets opened and read completely goes really far. Of course, one of the biggest things people think of in terms of motivating their players is an incentive or prize. However, you don't need to just award a prize to the individual at the top of the leaderboard at the very end of your mission's lifetime. There are a lot of other ways that we can award our players. Some examples being a weekly winner or placing the players who have achieved mLevel to be entered into a drawing. I actually like that idea most because players no longer will say, oh, I'm too far away from the leader. I don't even need to get involved. There's no chance I can even come close to winning now. I'm too far behind. Now everybody's kind of on the same playing field. Everybody has a chance to do their best, learn the content, achieve mLevel, and then they're placed into that pool, which ensures an equal chance of being a winner. Also, awarding recognition beyond the leaderboard. For example, being maybe comparing their mLevel scores with their sales quota for that quarter. That again shows how the benefit of playing mLevel can enhance their success in their day-to-day role. So the last slide here. This last slide covers some options you have as an admin in customizing your mission that also play a large part in driving engagement. So just an overview on these features. You can add locking or unlocking at the activity or mission level. So if you do have a mLevel rollout that's multiple missions, maybe they can't play mission number 2 until they've achieved mLevel on mission number 1. That would be at the mission level. At the activity level, an easy way to drive players to play an activity multiple times and do their best is if they can't, for example, play the checkpoint game until they've mastered Fastlane. So that functionality is really helpful in motivating players to do their best. Also, you can mention or challenge your players to achieve the mLevel badge and the All-Star badge. So we've seen those badges are great at motivating players as well. We could tie that into the incentive. Some other options you have, depending on how challenging or easy your content is you can tweak the scoring and or the timers of your activities. So you can make them easier or harder as needed. So for example, if your content is more challenging, you can make it a bit easier for a player to get 3 stars. Or if your content is a little bit lengthy or questions and answers are a little bit longer to read, maybe you can slow down your game so they have more time to read the questions. So all of that's up to you and in your hands as an admin. Of course, directing your players to send Smack Talk is a great way to increase the interest in an mLevel mission. Particularly, I always like the idea if we can get that leadership team to send Smack Talk. I don't know of any employees who would be challenged by their boss and not get back into mLevel and try to do their best. So just have some fun with it. There's a lot of tools that we hope make it easier than ever to drive engagement. So that's my best practices for driving engagement. We're going to wrap up my section with 2 polls for you guys.
All right, our next poll is, which idea for driving engagement are you most excited to try? Public leaderboards, group leaderboards, getting leaders involved, incentivizing players, custom communications, or locking, unlocking activities? Looks like a lot of people voted for incentivizing players and custom communications. And we'll have one more poll here to wrap up this section, and then we'll move on to, we'll move on to Chris Weaver. Our next poll, what's been the biggest challenge in engaging players to try out mLevel? Not having the time in their day, confusion around login, users not wanting to use their personal devices, or they don't see the value in training.
While you guys are voting, just want to remind you, if you have questions, you can use the questions feature and type us a question. We'll get back to you. Or you can use the raise your hand feature. There's a little hand icon. If you click on that, it'll raise your hand on our end, and we can open up your phone line, and you can ask some questions. And just start thinking about some things you might want to talk about with us after Chris's last segment here.
It looks like most people are responding that employees don't have enough time in their day. I guess they need to stop working so hard. All right, now we'll move on to Chris Weaver for the last section.
Great, thank you, Jake. So the last section we have here revolves around evaluating your mission. And I'm sure as many of you guys know, the mLevel platform allows the administrators to go in and actually check the progress of their users with really just a simple click of the mouse. Currently, our analytics dashboard can quickly answer the questions of how many people have played, who are my top performers, who is also struggling, as well as where are my users struggling. To determine how many people have played, we really have to look no further than the Engagement tab. In the Engagement tab, we can actually see total activity plays, total numbers of players who have played that mission, the average number of plays per player, as well as when those plays occurred. One important thing that I want to kind of point out is that graph that you see at the bottom of the image. That graph right there is really outlining to us, when our players were playing and how many plays were encountered on that day. We can actually use this graph to more or less evaluate our marketing strategy. Let's say that we went ahead and we released a newsletter regarding the mLevel platform out on Monday. We could then actually look into this analytics dashboard right here, and we could actually see if there were a spike in plays. This will allow us to not only see how many plays that we have in total, but it will also allow us to evaluate that marketing plan. Our next topic here is identifying our top and underperformers. To look at these metrics, all we have to do is look no further than our completion tab. In our completion tab, we can see the total numbers of stars earned by a given player, their current mission mastery, as well as their total points earned. We can use this information here to either reach out to our top performers to congratulate them for doing such a nice job on the mLevel mission. And we can also use it to reach out to our underperformers. We can look a little bit deeper into the analytics to see where they're struggling, or we can reach out to them on a personal level and maybe set up some time to discuss the troubles that they're having. Last but not least, we also have the ability here to identify where our users are struggling. In our Knowledge tab, we are able to see our topic knowledge gaps, so we can see exactly where, or more or less on what topics our users are struggling on, and we can actually see what items those users are also struggling on as well. This will allow us to not only supply that user or our users with extra knowledge around those topics, but we could also think about setting up additional missions that cover those topics that our users are struggling in. We can also go down and check on our Performance tab, and the Performance tab is going to will outline to us number of times a question was answered correct or incorrect. This will allow us to hop in and actually look at our questions on a micro level. We can see if those questions were actually, generated correctly. Let's say maybe we had a question that probably or maybe wasn't, phrased too clearly. We can hop in there, we can analyze all of our questions, and then we can make, a detailed analysis based on how our users answered those questions. So with that being said, we have a nice little poll question here that Jake will introduce you guys to. Take it away, Jake.
Thanks, Chris. And our last poll here is, which do you find most useful when analyzing the success of your mission? Completion tab, engagement tab, knowledge and performance, leaders, or data exports? Excellent. Looks like a lot of people find the Knowledge and Performance tab useful. And thank you guys for voting. With that, I'll pass it on to Jeff for any final remarks. Great.
Yeah. Great. We're going to open it up for questions and answers now at this point. So if you have a question, either type it in, we'll announce it to the group, or you can raise your hand and we can open up your phone line and you can ask a question. But before we do that, I'm going to go ahead and just give you a reminder for our next webinar. It's going to be May 13th, and it will be around our new feature, our new activity called Academy. The Academy activity provides our players with a very player-centric take on learning. We've got some great new features like adaptive learning, adaptive questioning, player-based analytics, so you've got like a player dashboard type of thing where they can see how they're doing, and really it's kind of like an open book style of assessment, so it's really cool and different than what we have now. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and open it up to any questions. I don't see any coming through at this point. Do you, Jake?
Nope, not right now. Just a final reminder, though, if you guys missed any of this or want to reference it in the future or want to share it with any of your colleagues, we do record these webinars, and they're available at support.mlevel.com.
We already answered that one. Great. All right, so we'll give it another couple seconds here. If anybody has questions, go ahead and put them through. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next month.
They did such a great job of covering the content that